you once told a story about leading a tour group in Turkey. And during that tour, you had an opportunity to experience, which I've never had this experience. So it was really compelling to me. But you experienced the prayer ritual of a whirling dervish. And the way you interpreted that experience was quite moving. And I'm wondering if you could recount that experience and tell us a little bit about what you learned.
Well, sure. And as a travel writer and a tour guide and a teacher and an enthusiast for respecting other cultures, I've always been a little bit annoyed when a sacred ritual of one culture becomes cruise ship entertainment for another culture. And, the average American, myself included, until I learned more about this, just thought, oh, cool, a whirling dervish. Are they getting dizzy? What's going on? But they're in a meditative trance and they're praying. They're monks that are praying. And I learned about that. And as a tour guide, I just love to take people to Turkey. It's a great opportunity to expose Christians from America generally to a moderate Western looking Muslim country that has a passion for keeping the separation of mosque and state, just like we do the separation of church and state, and there's just a very strong Muslim faith in Turkey. So when I take people to Turkey, we get a better appreciation of Islam. And my goal as the tour guide was to help my group meet a dervish so we could watch him whirl and learn what he's doing. So I'll never forget, my group was at the hotel and I'm running around the town looking for a dervish. And I found one. And I'll just paraphrase here because it's a little bit silly, but I kind of said, hey, I'm an American tour guide and you're a dervish, right? I've got a group back at the hotel. Could we come and watch you whirl? And he said, well, I'm not a photo op. I'm the Muslim equivalent of a monk. But if I can explain to you what I'm doing and why, you're welcome to watch me pray. I said, great, when and where? So we met him on his rooftop. Sun was going down. We're gathered around, me and my dozen American travelers, and he's in his robe and everything. And it's not a tourist show. He does this 5 times a day when he prays. And he says, welcome. I am a dervish. You Christians would call that a monk. And I followed the prophet Mevlana. And he's kind of like the Muslim version of St. Francis, the prophet of love. Everybody can get their brains around that, and everybody can like Mevlana. We call him Rumi in our culture, I think. Rumi. We like his poetry. And this dervish said 5 times a day, I whirl myself into a meditative trance. And then I meditate on the teachings of Rumi or Mevlana. And he says, I plant 1 foot in my hometown, my family, and the other foot goes around and celebrates the diversity of God's great creation. And he demonstrated how by having 1 foot planted, the other foot going around, he whirls around. And he raises one hand up to accept the love of his heavenly Father. And the other hand, like the spout of a tea kettle, goes down and showers God's love on his creation. And he whirls. And then he meditates on that. He wants to become a conduit of God's love. And we watched him. And he whirled, and his head tilted over, and his robe billowed out, and he whirled, and he became that conduit of God's love, celebrating the diversity on this planet and still anchored in his own culture and his own home. And as a tour guide and a teacher, and somebody so eager to expose my travelers to something that was previously frightening, I'll never forget watching that monk and then looking over at my group and see the wonder sweep over their faces. And I thought, this is good travel. This is what a tour guide's supposed to do. My group is going to go home a little less afraid, a little more connected, and they're going to go home with that most beautiful souvenir, a broader perspective. And I'm so thankful for that dervish and for that moment. And it just contributes to my whole joy of being able to be a advocate for people who have the opportunity to travel as if the road is church.